Good evening, I'm Gabriel Porras. It is just past midnight here in San Joaquin County in the state of California. Millions of Americans headed to the polls earlier today. Thousands, hundreds of thousands here in San Joaquin County did so as well. And we are following those results in our many local races, and we will get to those in just a moment. We're expecting an update from the San Joaquin County Registrar of Voters Office at 1 a.m., and we're still awaiting that update as of the last check. I just refreshed the page now. So far, to fill you in on what we have been viewing this past evening, if you have not been watching our previous live updates, the Registrar of Voters Office still only counting 36.1% voter turnout at this hour. Now, that is inaccurate, to say the least. 36.1% is what they are counting at this point. Now, we were told by the Secretary of State, the office of Alex Padilla, he released numbers yesterday saying that 45% of voters in San Joaquin County already voted before Election Day and had already mailed in their ballots, and they were already accepted by November 2nd. So 45% of voters that had voted by mail alone. We're still waiting to find out how many people voted at the polls. We have obtained data from the Secretary of State as well that shows that as of 11:30, so over an hour ago now, that San Joaquin County was one of only 6 counties in the state of California that has still not reported any of the day of voting or voting from any polling places. That also is contradicting from a statement that the Registrar of Voters Office gave us earlier today. The Registrar of Voters Office emailed a press release to the media saying that at 8:30 they posted the first results from vote-by-mail ballots, and in-person ballots cast prior to Election Day were then reported at 9 p.m., and they said that Election Day ballots will be updated hourly throughout the election night until all ballots have been voted in person on Election Day from the 34 voter service centers have been tabulated. Since that 8:30 p.m. update that we saw hours ago, we have still only had a few hundred votes and ballots being added every hour by the Registrar of Voters Office. So it'll be interesting to see this 1 o'clock update to see if we have perhaps some more data that is being given by the Registrar of Voters Office. I do want to talk about the polls that we saw earlier today. As I mentioned, we were at several different polling locations in the city of Stockton, speaking to just over a dozen voters on camera who told us about how they were voting, how they view the election, and which direction they were going to be voting in both the local races and the presidential races. And I'm going to play that sound for you right now for some of what some of these Election Day voters here in the city of Stockton had to think today about the elections.
This year is very, very important because if you look at the people coming in, a lot of them are first-timers. We had a birthday girl who turned 18 today, and she waited a weekend just for her birthday. We had several graduates come in, first time, and we know they'll be back. But this has been the biggest turnout for the youth, which surprised me.
Go vote, please. It matters. It really matters. So go vote.
Thank you.
There's nothing for these kids but to get into trouble. So there needs to be some type of change. And hopefully one of them can do it.
And again, that was sound from some voters in San Joaquin County who took to the polls earlier today. In Stockton, we were at Bear Creek High School, Lincoln High School, and Delta College, where they had voting centers in San Joaquin County in the city of Stockton. And I can tell you, at the polling location at Delta College, there was a pretty steady stream of people going in and out throughout the day, but there was also a line, which is something I have not actually seen in our previous. I've covered about 2 election cycles now, 2016 and 2018 here in Stockton. Not something that we have seen in those previous elections, but yeah, a line forming at Delta College just for people to vote today. And again, we were initially expecting an update from the Registrar of Voters Office with election results at 1 a.m. It is now 4 minutes past 1 a.m. We are still awaiting that result update. So far, all that we have is the results from 12 a.m., where the Registrar of Voters Office reported 36.1% of vote-by-mail ballots that they had counted out of at least 45% that have to be counted, according to the data from the Secretary of State's office. It's unclear when we're going to get this update at 1 a.m. Again, it said it would be posted at 1 a.m. It's now 1:05, so going on a few minutes past here now. It has been an interesting night, of course, not only at the local level, but also at the national level, viewing the presidential election and the Senate races as well. For those of you who are curious regarding the presidential election, I'm going to pull up those numbers for you right now to see who is in the lead as we speak. Right now, Joe Biden has 238 votes in the Electoral College. Donald Trump has 213. Of course, that magic number that they need is 217 in order to get the office of the presidency. So that's definitely something that will be interesting to watch. 238 right now, 238 votes for Joe Biden and 213 for Donald Trump. This is according to the Associated Press as of 1:05 a.m., so as of this exact very minute. We're still awaiting, as I mentioned, results from San Joaquin County and our local races, although we are expecting those at any moment now. So far, the Registrar of Voters Office has counted 36.1% of vote-by-mail ballots. According to the Secretary of State, we have 45% of voters who voted by mail, so still a contingent of ballots from vote-by-mail ballots that still have to be counted if our data from the Secretary of State, of course, is correct. Also interesting to note here, as we've been following this evening, we've been pretty focused on the campaign for Stockton's mayor, and at our last update, it was still neck and neck with incumbent Mayor Michael Tubbs stealing about 49.23% of the vote, with Kevin Lincoln in the lead with 50.77% of the vote. Now, it is an interesting line to draw here, is that in the primary elections, Tubbs actually did well with vote-by-mail ballots. In fact, that is where most of his votes came from. 42.14% of Mayor Tubbs' votes came from vote-by-mail voters in Stockton. Now, for Kevin Lincoln, on the other hand, his opponent Kevin Lincoln, that he got about 20.55% of vote-by-mail ballots were coming from Lincoln. Provisional ballots lower than that. So Tubbs obviously excelled previously with vote-by-mail ballots in the primary elections, although it appears as though he's not doing so well this cycle with the vote-by-mail ballots, as it is still neck and neck, and we are still looking at those vote-by-mail numbers. I'm going to refresh this page here to see if we have any new updates, and yeah, still no new updates from the San Joaquin County Registrar of Voters Office. Again, we were anticipating those results around 1 a.m. It is now 1:07 a.m. We have still not received those updates. In fact, since our 8:30 initial update, we have not seen any significant new developments from them. In fact, only about a few hundred ballots were actually added to the counts since 8:30. So definitely something to look into there. And it's unclear when we will get these next results in. Again, they were supposed to be coming around 1 a.m. and we have been on the air since 1 a.m. still waiting on those results. 7 minutes out now. We will, for those of you who are perhaps going to sleep, tuning out this evening, we will have updates tomorrow as well. Tomorrow around noon, I plan on hosting a live show, or at least a show with some more information on where voters in San Joaquin County placed on these different elections. I'm going to refresh the page again to see if we have those 1 a.m. results. And again, we are still awaiting that from the Registrar of Voters Office, now 8 minutes past 1 a.m. I can put up those results for you previously for those of you who may not have been joining us earlier. This is what it looked like moments ago. Actually, I should say an hour ago with our most recent results updates. You can see semifinal official results update. This is all available on the San Joaquin County Registrar of Voters Office's website as well. You can see most voters in San Joaquin County leaning towards the Harris and Biden ticket. 61.88% of voters in San Joaquin County voting for them. 36.03% going to Donald Trump. Moving down to the congressional districts, District 9, Jerry McNerney, the incumbent, is in the lead. Josh Harder in the lead as well for his district. Senate District 5, Susan Eggman in the lead. Assembly District 9, Jim Cooper in the lead. District 12 and 13, Kathy Miller and Keith Flora. And I'm going to kind of scroll through these as we've already covered them at great lengths in our previous updates. But again, that number right there, the Stockton mayoral race, still neck and neck at this hour at 1 a.m. here, the day following Election Day, with Tubbs at 49.23% of the vote and Lincoln at 50.77% of the vote. And again, these are updates as of 12:03 a.m. I'm going to refresh this now to see if we have anything new from the Registrar of Voters Office. And it looks like, again, we are still awaiting their results. Earlier, the Registrar of Voter did issue a statement to SCW News regarding voter turnout and regarding election results, and I'm going to read that for you right now, just getting the email. A read in part, quote, "At 8:30 p.m., San Joaquin County posted the first results for vote-by-mail ballots. In-person ballots cast prior to Election Day were reported at 9 p.m. Election Day ballots will be updated hourly throughout election night until all ballots voted in person on Election Day from the 34 voter service centers have been tabulated. We will still have many more ballots to process, count, and certify over the coming days and weeks." That is from San Joaquin County Registrar of Voter Melissa Dubroff, as of let's see here, as of 11:28 p.m. That is our last update from the Registrar of Voters Office. We are still awaiting those 1 a.m. numbers. As I mentioned, I'm going to take this off the screen now. So these are our old results. But again, we're still waiting, really a waiting game at this point to see when the Registrar of Voters Office will release these numbers. What's also known, as I mentioned, is that they have been late in releasing these numbers. Okay, we are just getting the numbers in right now. I'm going to put them on screen. Again, a very minimal increase. We were previously looking, just for your reference, at 36.1% of the votes. The Registrar of Voters Office has now updated that, and we are now only looking at 36.4% of the votes. So still a very large amount of ballots that have to be counted and that have not been posted, certainly below state standards at this point, as San Joaquin County is one of only six counties in the entire state of California that has still not reported their day of voting so far at their polling places. But as you can see, no significant updates on these bigger races. Jerry McNerney still in the lead, Josh Harder, Susan Eggman in the lead, Jim Cooper, Heath Flora, Kathy Miller, Doug Vigil, Elizabeth Blanchard, Kathy Garcia, Teresa Brown, and Cecilia Mendez still all in the lead. Same story that we've been pretty much telling all evening. Valentino Silva in his SUSD Board Area 3 still in the lead. Trustee Area 4, Ray Zulueta Jr. in the lead. Trustee LUSD Area 2, Ashley Jones is in the lead with a large leg up on her competition there. LUSD Board in Area 4, Sandra Chan still in the lead. And Supervisor Rhodacia Ransom still in the lead as well at 53.83% of the votes. And for the mayoral race, still no significant updates. Kevin Lincoln cementing his lead just very slightly. He is now at 50.90% of the votes, whereas Tubbs is at 49.10% of the votes. And for City Council District 6, Kimberly Wormsley still in the lead at 70% of the votes. And finally, for Measure X in San Joaquin County, voters still at 66.68% in favor of passing that. So again, no significant updates to report this time. Registrar of Voters Office still not releasing a lot of information. 36.4% of the votes that they have counted so far have been released. Although we know that at least, as of yesterday, there are at least 45% of voters who had already voted and had already submitted their vote-by-mail ballots. Unclear when those counts will come in. We'll be back on live in about 50 minutes with another update as soon as we get that update from the San Joaquin County Registrar of Voters Office. Thank you for joining me.